What happened, guys? What is up, everybody? I am back. Sorry about missing out on last week. The world was in a weird spot. It still kind of is, and I just couldn't motivate myself to make a video. So apologies about that, but I'm back. And along with another thing that was missing last week, the Exodite. The newest episode just dropped as I'm filming this, and I wanted to get out a quick reaction because, man, I am really kind of disappointed in how it turned out. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it didn't come out last week. I was waiting for it. I was kind of looking forward to it, and it wasn't there, which to me signals one of two possible scenarios. The first of which is something was wrong in the edit and it wasn't found until the 11th hour, and they had to quickly pull the episode and do something very quickly in order to get it ready for air. Mistakes happen. Somehow this one slipped through all the cracks, and it was egregious enough to warrant delaying the show by a week. That's fine. Mistakes happen. The second possibility, though, is the one that worries me. Is that they're producing this show at a rate where they're just barely able to release it in time, and this episode needed more work before it was ready to be released. This is a fully digital product. There's very few opportunities once the product is complete for things to go wrong in later stages down the line. There's no manufacturing, there's no packaging, there's no resale, there's nothing like that going on. There's zero supply chain. But if they are filming and, well, filming, you know, metaphorically, and completing it just in time for the release, that is unsustainable. And if that is the cause of this delay, that is a very bad sign for the future of Warhammer TV productions and Warhammer animations in general. Because this show should be 100% done before it goes to air. That is the normal way filming is handled. You film a series, or a season of a series, or something like that. You get that done, and then you start releasing it in a weekly time slot. That's how shows are made. And if they're not doing that, that's, you know, just a really bad practice, and it can lead to things like unexpected delays happening a lot more often. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. I'm hoping that it's just a fluke. The only thing that will tell is time. But we do know is that Angels of Death took a multi-week hiatus around halfway through, presumably to finish up work, although it's not really sure. There's very little transparency in terms of why there was a delay there. GW has stated recently that they're not going to delay shows in the future, but have not stated why there were delays in the first place. So whether that is a realistic goal for them to state or not, it remains to be seen. I am not very hopeful, though. That's just dealing with the delay and potentially the consequences of their release model. Again, I don't know. I don't work for Games Workshop. They have not contacted me about this. Of course, that's just pure speculation on my part. Let's talk about the actual episode, though, shall we? It started off pretty well. The opening scene is a really kind of chilling portrayal of the last moments of a Tau warrior's life against an unfeeling, uncaring empire. And that was kind of cool. It was neat to see that. But it really kind of quickly fell apart in my hands like a sandcastle. And what happened was that the episode, I felt, really lacked a lot of focus. And it did the thing that you never want to have happen to you when you're watching something ever, which is it actively confused me to the point where I didn't know what I was looking at, where characters were, who was talking, what was going on in the scene. There were a couple of what I felt like either cinematographic or directorial or editorial choices that were made that conflated this confusion even more in the episode, and I just kind of felt lost. First of all, the battle scenes were pretty cool. There were some pretty neat shots of the battle happening, although they did straight up decide to bring in 2 Warlord Titans immediately in the first, like, 2 minutes of the episode, which is kind of a weird thing to do. It's just like an insane escalation happening very, very rapidly, because you really don't get much more than 1 Warlord Titan in most situations. 2 in one space is maybe even unheard of in Black Library fiction thus far. You know, Titans are potentially world-ending battle machines, and they just casually drop 2 of them into this battle, and, you know, they shoot some dudes, I guess. It seemed like a weird flex, kind of. And I'm not really sure why that happened. But it did, and they looked cool. You know, they killed some dudes, and that was neat. But then we get into the main character, who I still don't really know their name. They're only referred to by their rank, which I think is like Shazray or something like that. And her sort of cadre of stealth suit boys and girls hunting this Eldar character. And there's a couple of scenes of conversation establishing the girl who doesn't like technology once again, in case you forgot her from the first episode, which you probably did because they're all wearing helmets and look identical. And then there's the other guy who, I don't know, has a fiery temper, maybe? It's really kind of like, there's some stilted dialogue going on, and a lot of choices made in the writing there that don't make a lot of sense to me, and I'll get to that shortly. And then they finally encounter the Exodite, the titular character, this Eldari rogue who they're hunting, and he absolutely wrecks them. And that's why these character choices are weird. They're trying to establish these unique, colorful characters while having them all look identical, and then, spoiler warning, 90% of them just immediately die in this episode. So we end up with 2 characters, the main character and one of her lackeys. I don't know who it is because, again, they all look identical. And if this was like an attempt to raise the stakes or some emotional connection to these characters, it totally fell flat on its face because, one, not enough time was given in order to establish those relationships and that care, because it's been literally 20 minutes that we spent with them, and they're not even doing anything for most of it. They've had like 3 or 4 lines. And then 2, they all look the same. They're all wearing helmeted uniforms. There's no distinguishing characteristics. We never see inside the suit like we do with the main character. So you just immediately sequester them into like trash tier side character, and it doesn't matter at all about their fates. But the show doesn't really seem to think that's the case, which is, it's kind of a weird disconnect between the viewer's expectations and what the show is actually giving you. The Exodite himself was in a really confusing situation where he was just kind of like running at them for a bit. And, well, one guy kept missing with his gun shooting the Exodite, and they were just kind of everybody else was just standing around doing nothing. And then the Exodite, the guy stops shooting for some reason and then gets stabbed in the back by the Exodite. I'm like, where the heck did he come from? He was just running straight at him. Like, there was nothing to telegraph that sort of movement, and that's the sort of like confusing scenario that I'm talking about when discussing the editorial composition of this episode, is that I lost track of the characters and their locations. You know, immediately when they drop into the battlefield, someone makes a remark that they landed off target. Am I supposed to know that? Like, what is their target? It's never discussed. You know, there's so many things that seem irrelevant to anything that happens, and also there's so many things that could use more time in order to confer what's actually happening. I feel like they tried to make the Exodite like a cool, horrifying, badass character, kind of like a Batman effect where people just kind of get swept up and taken out one by one. But it really just, again, falls flat on its face when he's just running straight at a dude, not even dodging or doing anything cool. He's just straight up running at him, and then he just teleports behind him for some reason, and not because of a cool ability he uses, because it's all hidden off camera. He is just literally like they picked up the 3D model and they put him next to the guy for the next frame. It's really confusing, and none of it is really signifying what the coolness of a conflict like that in 40K or, you know, Kill Team or any other sort of game is trying to portray, because we have lots of reference for that in the fiction, and there's lots of cool fights in the fiction. And the large scale battle, again, looked cool. It was fine. But when they get into the more personal stuff in this show, I'm noticing a worrying trend of either the animators not really having the time to show what they want, or the edit being rushed, or something of that nature. I don't want to blame like the skill of the particular production team, because visually it's a good looking show. The animations, pretty solid. The Tau armor in particular looks great. It's a visually compelling show, and I think most of the missteps in this episode are probably due to a rushed production timeline, which again, I hope is not related to that second scenario that I spelled out earlier in this episode. But that's the second episode of the Exodite, guys. I was really excited for this series from the first episode. You can take a look at my review, because it was legitimately the best thing that's been put out on Warhammer TV thus far, probably. But the strength in Warhammer's shows so far has been the writing and the direction. Even in stuff like Hammer and Bolter, which has the budget of less than a full Warhammer 40,000 army, and generally I think is not very good, it has good writing and good storytelling, and that is really where this one is falling short, which is really painful to see, because it doesn't matter how good your thing looks if you're not telling the story correctly or in an enticing manner. But that's it for this episode, guys. There's gonna be another Color Theory episode coming out next week. In fact, I actually filmed it before this, so you know it's coming out next week. And after that, there's probably gonna be some more kit bashes on the way. And until that, I will see you guys next time. Make sure to stay subscribed so you don't miss any of those videos. Throw a like if you agreed with me on the Exodite second episode, or share your thoughts on the episode in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.